A long, long time ago, in a little town called Bethlehem, a very special baby was born. His name was Jesus. His mother was a kind young woman named Mary, and his father was a caring carpenter named Joseph. There was no room for them at the inn, so Jesus was born in a simple stable where the animals slept. He lay in a manger, a box filled with soft hay. Shepherds came from the fields to see him, guided by a bright star. They knew this baby was a king, the one promised by prophets long ago. His birth was not a grand event in a palace, but it was filled with peace and wonder for all who came to worship him. Soon after Jesus was born, a message came to Joseph in a dream. An angel warned him that the land was not safe for the new baby. The king of that land, a cruel man named Herod, was afraid. He had heard that a new king had been born, and he worried this baby would one day take his throne. King Herod was so filled with fear and jealousy that he made a terrible plan. He decided to find the baby and harm him. Joseph knew he had to act quickly to protect his family. He trusted the message from the angel and prepared for a long journey to keep Jesus safe from harm. Following the angel's warning, Joseph woke Mary in the middle of the night. He told her they had to leave Bethlehem right away. They packed what little they had and quietly slipped away under the cover of darkness. They traveled far, far away to a country called Egypt. The journey was long and difficult, but they knew it was what they must do to keep Jesus safe from King Herod's cruel plan. In Egypt, they lived as a simple family, waiting for the day when it would be safe to return to their own land. They were guided by their faith and the love they had for their precious son, protecting him from all danger. After some time had passed, an angel once again appeared to Joseph in a dream. The angel told him that King Herod was gone, and that it was now safe to go back home. So the little family packed their things once more and began the long journey back to their homeland. They did not return to Bethlehem, but instead settled in a small town called Nazareth. It was here, in this quiet and peaceful town, that Jesus would grow up. He would play and learn, just like other children, but everyone who met him knew there was something very special about this boy who had been saved from a king and had traveled so far. As Jesus grew, he was not just an ordinary boy. One year, when he was 12 years old, his family went to the big city of Jerusalem for a special festival. On their way home, Mary and Joseph realized Jesus was not with them. They hurried back to the city, searching everywhere with worried hearts. They finally found him in the great temple, sitting with the wisest teachers and scholars. He was not just listening, he was asking them amazing questions and giving answers that showed a wisdom far beyond his years. The learned men were astonished by his understanding of God's laws and promises, recognizing his unique connection to heaven. When Jesus grew into a man, around the age of 30, he knew it was time to begin his most important work. He left his home in Nazareth and began to travel through the towns and villages, teaching people about God's love. He knew he could not do this great work all by himself, so he started to gather a group of special friends to help him. He chose 12 men to be his closest followers, his disciples. They were ordinary people, like fishermen and a tax collector, but Jesus saw their good hearts. They left their old lives behind to follow him, to learn from him, and to help him share his message with the world. As Jesus traveled with his disciples, he showed God's power in many amazing ways. He performed miracles that left people in awe. If someone was very sick, Jesus could make them well with just a touch or a kind word. He helped people who could not walk to stand up and leap for joy. He even gave sight to people who had been blind their whole lives, allowing them to see the beautiful world for the first time. One time, at a wedding, he turned big jars of plain water into the best wine. These wonderful acts were signs to show everyone that he truly was sent from God. The stories of his miracles spread far and wide, and soon huge crowds of people would gather wherever he went. They came to see his power and to hear his teachings. He didn't just heal their bodies, he also healed their spirits. He taught them powerful stories called parables, which were simple tales with deep meanings. These stories helped people understand God's kingdom in a new way. He spoke of love, the importance of forgiving others, and the strength that comes from having faith. His words brought hope to the poor and comfort to the sad, changing the lives of all who listened with an open heart. Jesus' teachings were simple yet profound. and they often centered on the power of love and forgiveness. He told people that the most important rule was to love God with all their heart and to love their neighbors as they loved themselves. He explained that a neighbor wasn't just someone who lived next door, but anyone in need of help. He taught that forgiveness was a gift everyone should give freely, just as God forgives us. He told a famous story about a son who ran away and wasted all his money. But when he returned home, his father welcomed him with a joyful hug, showing that God's love is always ready to forgive and celebrate our return. These lessons of love and faith were not always welcomed by everyone. Some of the powerful religious leaders grew jealous of Jesus. They saw the large crowds that followed him and felt their own authority was being threatened. They did not like that he spoke of being God's son and that he forgave people's wrongdoings, something they believed only God could do. They began to watch him closely, looking for a way to stop him. They plotted against him in secret, their hearts filled with fear and anger. They could not understand the message of love he brought, and instead saw him as a dangerous troublemaker who needed to be silenced. Tragically, the plan to stop Jesus was helped by one of his own friends. One of the 12 disciples, a man named Judas Iscariot, made a terrible choice. He went to the leaders who were against Jesus and agreed to betray him. For just 30 pieces of silver, Judas promised to lead them to Jesus at a quiet time when the crowds were not around. One evening, after Jesus shared a final special meal with his friends, they went to a garden to pray. It was there that Judas arrived with soldiers, and he showed them who Jesus was by giving him a kiss. A sign of friendship turned into a sign of betrayal. After Judas betrayed him, the soldiers arrested Jesus and took him away. His disciples were scared and ran away into the night. Jesus was brought before the religious leaders and then before the Roman governor, a man named Pontius Pilate. He was accused of many false things, like trying to make himself a king against Rome. Pilate could not find any real reason to punish him, but the angry crowd, stirred up by the leaders, shouted for Jesus to be punished. Although he was innocent, Jesus was beaten and mocked. He faced the unfair trial with great calm and courage, never speaking a word of anger against those who accused him. After the unfair trial, Jesus was sentenced to die in the cruelest way the Romans knew, on a wooden cross. He was forced to carry the heavy cross through the streets to a hill outside the city. There he was nailed to the wood and lifted up between two criminals. Even as he hung there, suffering great pain, his heart was full of love and forgiveness. He looked down at the soldiers and the people who had hurt him and prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." He showed love until his very last breath. And then, his journey on earth seemed to have come to a sad and final end. When Jesus died, his friends were filled with sorrow. A kind man named Joseph of Arimathea bravely asked for Jesus' body. He gently took Jesus down from the cross and wrapped him in clean linen cloths. He then laid Jesus' body in his own new tomb, which was a cave carved out of rock. A very large and heavy stone was rolled in front of the entrance to seal it shut, and soldiers were placed there to guard it. His followers believed they would never see their beloved teacher again. Their hearts were broken, and all the hope he had given them seemed to be buried with him inside that cold, dark tomb. But the story was not over. 3 days after Jesus was buried, something truly miraculous happened. Some of the women who were his followers went to the tomb early in the morning to care for his body. When they arrived, they were shocked to see that the huge stone had been rolled away. They looked inside, but the tomb was empty. An angel was there and told them not to be afraid. The angel said, "He is not here. He has risen just as he said he would." Jesus was alive again. He had defeated death itself, proving that he was more powerful than anything in the world. Over the next 40 days, the risen Jesus appeared to his friends. He met with his disciples, ate with them, and taught them one last time. He calmed their fears and filled their hearts with incredible joy. Then he led them to a hillside, where he told them to go and share the good news with everyone in the world. He promised that he would always be with them, and that he would send the Holy Spirit to be their helper and guide. As they watched, Jesus was lifted up into the sky and disappeared into a cloud, returning to his Father in heaven, leaving behind a promise of eternal hope for all people.